Hello and welcome back. I have no idea what episode we are on to now, and just some amazing topics in the recent weeks. It is just me for this podcast, so hopefully you enjoy some of the highlights that I'm going to be talking about, and something that I've had loads of conversations with people recently, especially where I am in my own journey. And just things to sort of put out there that I think not enough people speak about. So obviously I am going to be talking about off-season, or a growth phase, or a pushing phase, or a gaining phase, or a bulking season, whatever you wish to sort of call it. Everyone has loads of different names. And it's just going into the depths of sort of how I've got to where I am now, what sort of my own plans are, but also then relating it back to maybe where your journey's at, where you might be thinking, or what you're doing with your training, with your nutrition, and just to sort of cross over all of those things. So obviously, to begin with, my journey to getting to my off season was obviously I had my first prep last year in 2023, which I can't believe it was almost a year heading to when I competed. And I kind of knew that when it got to the end of the season, I had a very long season. I had a 30-week prep. I did 3 shows. And obviously when I got to the end, I almost did further shows after that, but actually came away deciding I was in the best position possible to come away with how my season had went. So obviously then skipping forward, me and my coach sort of sat down, we needed to come up, sort of just discuss where we wanted to go and how we wanted to map it out. Now, I always knew I kind of wanted to take a whole year off. Now, looking back even more so, I am so glad I did. In prep, you don't have a lot of, let's say, balance. There is not a lot of balance, very little, if any. You are very driven. It's very much get in and get out. Like, that's what you need to do. There's not really any room for anything else. It is very restrictive. And that is that. Now, obviously, knowing the balance of off season, you also need that time to recover, for your body to sort of feel a little bit more normal. And obviously give back to your family and friends, and go to social occasions, and actually what I would call life. Given, we never want to be too off the rails, but I will sort of delve into that. So where do we begin from there? Obviously, coming into off season, recovery is a huge point after prep. It took me around, I think, 14 weeks to feel normal. And it took some time. And I think this is the part that people really forget about. Like, you can't just come off stage and then go straight into an off season. Like, you need your body to come back to normal levels of body fat. Your hormones need to come back to normal and come back to life. You need to feel a little bit more human, because prep, you kind of do turn into a robot. And we have to understand that the body's been very unsure of what it's doing, and it's been not in the most healthy state. So it's about getting that health back and getting those health markers in the best place possible before you then get ready to push. And obviously it's not getting bloods done straight after prep. We know most things are going to feel and be in the bin, as one of my favorite phrases. So, it's getting those markers and feelings back to normal, or so what we would assume as normal, before we then kind of check back into those health markers, hormones, and everything, before you're ready to push on. Because at each major sort of starting point of your phases, you want to be checking your bloods. Obviously, we spoke about this, Justine and I, in our hormone podcast and training. And we did highlight about getting bloods done. And obviously, you can get your bloods done more frequent. But we decided, John and I decided we would get that done before we're ready to push. So where do I start with the recovery phase? It just takes time. And it's a weird one because I felt like it takes a while for your head to catch up with your body. And like what your body's doing is very different to where your head has been. Like, you see yourself for like being so lean for so long. And then you've got to suddenly get used to sort of how your body's gaining normal body fat and to be at a normal level of body fat. And this is the part that people forget. You are never, ever, 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 ever going to be your stage weight as forever. It's not a healthy weight to be on. And you sort of need to have that sort of slight quick gain to start with before you then actually start making a productive gain. And again, these are all within that recovery phase of getting health markers back into a good place. Equally so, we still have to sort of manage that initial post-show recovery phase, whatever you wish to call it, and the communication with your coach, where your head's at, how you're feeling, how training is, where your mindset is. All of these things are a part of that recovery phase. It's not just necessarily about like what your body's doing. It's also where your mind is at, because that's a really, really tough point. So then skipping on, weight gain is pretty darn cool in terms of growth. And I think a lot of people demonize it. I am in 32 weeks, not that I'm counting, into my off season. Obviously within that, you're sort of looking at 3 months of like recovery. And we really started to push. I kind of started to feel normal around November time. My show was in September. Then my food stayed the same. So my food from when I came off prep till about 2-3 weeks ago has been the same. Now, obviously, it's only recently changed. And obviously that's a little bit further down the line to when I'm speaking. But we wanted to focus into training, and off season really is about that sort of steady rate of gain. You obviously have that initial kind of, I don't like to say spike, but that initial quite quick increase in weight gain, which is kind of where those health markers are just coming a little bit back to normal. And then that will slowly get smaller where that rate of gain is happening. And you want that to be the sort of pattern you're noticing. Now, something to remember in off season is that weight gain still needs to be managed. We cannot just eat loads of off-plan meals, eat loads of, rubbish food, if you like. We can't just have loads of processed stuff. And to be honest, most of it stays the same. Your food stays the same as in prep. You've just got a higher volume. Now, obviously, each individual person is different. Some people have a couple of off plans a week. Some people have a few high days a week. Some people don't. Some people, don't have off plan as often. It's purely dependent on what your body's doing, how your body's responding, how your body's feeling, how your training is going. All of those things is what we need to keep an eye on in order to sort of be the best version of you for your off season. Now, I love this sport a lot, and it's my place. And I'm looking at it long term. Now, not everyone does. And if you're sort of flipping it onto the lifestyle side of things, I think a lot of people go straight into like a dirty bulk and just eat whatever, think they're upping their food. Like, tracking is still very, very useful. Managing your food is still very, very useful. Having a meal plan, knowing you're hitting that increase of food, because I actually think bulking or growing or, pushing, however you want to call it, is actually tougher than cutting. Now, some people on the other side of this might really disagree. But I actually think not enough people realize how much food they need to eat, the kinds of foods that they need to be eating, and why we push certain macronutrients to others, and the reasoning behind it. And this is something obviously you would sort of keep a close connection with and understanding with your coach. But I think a lot of people are like, yeah, I'm going on a bulk, 2 months, and then go straight into a cut again. Now, we want to embrace every part of this process. Now, obviously, I'm going to be flipping the switch between bodybuilding and lifestyle because they are very different. And, bodybuilding, you have got that more seriousness about it. Like I look at you're looking at your off season as, okay, you're coming off of prep. You've got 3 months of recovery. You've got, another 2 to 3 months of pushing. You might have a mini cut. You might do another pushing phase. So, but actually by the time you break it down, you've probably got a few pushing phases, a couple of mini cuts, you've got a recovery phase, and you've probably got a pre-prep phase if you're taking 18 months off. So really you don't have that much time properly pushing and growing. You're looking at 6 to 8, maximum 10 months. The rest of that, you've got some mini cuts, you've got your recovery, and all of those things need to be remembered. So my thinking was, I never wanted to go straight into another prep. And now in hindsight, I cannot even think about going into another prep now. Not that I don't ever want to, but my body's really blooming happy at the moment. It's, we're in a great place. Rate of gain is nice and consistent. And we're keeping an eye on all of those variables. So now the thought of when I've only just about got to okay, now we're really, really going with training and numbers and weights, I can't even think about going into another 30-week prep. That actually baffles my brain entirely. So we have to think about this. You want to be in it for the long run. We can always have sort of the idea of jumping from season to season. For me personally is a lot on the body, because it's a lot on the body doing a 30-week prep. However, flipping onto the lifestyle side of things, when I did my first 3 photo shoots, obviously they were each around 10 to 12 weeks. Then I had I didn't have the best coming out or recovery phases from my first 2, but then I was able to give it a longer time into growing and sort of understanding that side of things. Given now, I don't think I understood it in the same way of actually giving growing muscle the time of day, because it's a long process, and being a natty, it takes forever. And no, you can't accidentally get bulky. Trust me, I'm still trying. And it's really been about understanding, and the more knowledge I have gained through that has really, really helped. And like I said before, the gaining part is cool. Now, I did a post, a couple of weeks ago, sort of just of a picture side by side of when I've just come out of prep to now or currently. And in that time since then, I'm up 30 pounds, which is nearly 2 stone. And I think a lot of people, when they say that, or, I've gained 2 stone, we think of it as bad weight gain. But actually, you don't truly know what those numbers are saying, especially when you're coming from a prep stage weight. You need that initial rate of gain. So I'm probably looking at 10 pounds of a good point of where healthy levels of body fat, where the body's sort of generally happy. And then I'm looking at that 20 pounds into growth. No, that is not just pure muscle mass. We have to be in a surplus. That is obviously body fat. But hopefully somewhere under there, I always say to people, I'm hoping something's grown. That actually I'm giving it the time of day. So then when I get on stage next year for my second season, it's going to be, I hope, just as undeniable as my first. And the only thing that I'm focusing on is knowing that I've improved since my first season. And that is all I am striving for. Obviously, I have goals within the bodybuilding sports, but ultimately, I want to know that I've improved. I want to know that I've gained good muscle mass, and I look entirely different when I get on stage next year. Now, that is a process to really grasp, and who knows what next prep will hold, and I won't know, but I'm really trusting and enjoying this process. And like I said previously towards the start of this podcast, is that weight does still need to be managed. But equally, on the flip side, weight can still fluctuate. I have had weeks where I'm up by 3 pounds. I've had weeks where I'm only up by 0.2 of a pound. You know, obviously we want it to be steady. We want it to be controlled, and life is to be lived. I've had lots of social events. I've got a lot coming up in summer with friends' weddings and holidays and things. And that's my time this year. And I'm really going to embrace that and enjoy it. And I've never felt better in that sense, and feeling really confident with that. But you still need to, like, I'm trusting that process in, and I'm exactly where I need to be. You know, the same as if you're prepping, if you're cutting, you know, you still get those weight fluctuations. We embrace it. We know what we're doing, and for the everyday. And if we know that we're ticking all of those boxes for the goals we want to achieve, whether that's prepping or cutting or bulking, you know that ultimately the process is going to be achieved in that direction for said goal. Now, the goalpost always shifts. You know, when you get to the end of prep, we don't want to continue that. We want to embrace growing and embrace pushing. And so we have to remember that as well. And ultimately, the variable's always the same. Like I said before, what I ate in prep, I eat in off season. Given I don't have as many egg whites, I enjoy a lot more carbs. I said a post yesterday about I am determined to make sure I have pasta every single day for my dinner, because I barely got pasta in my prep at all. I think I might have got it once for a refeed. So it's really nice, like, just enjoying the foods that I'm eating, enjoying having the consistency. Like, I make sure I hit my 5 meals a day. I make sure I hit the targets that have been given. Now, up to, I think, 2 weeks ago, where are we? We're in, obviously, end of April. So we changed my food with John, and my training's been changed. Now, I have been given macro targets, which I have been on a meal plan the whole of my prep, and probably since I've been with John, actually. And I've been given a macro breakdown per meal, and it's been really nice understanding and tracking again to focus on that I'm getting those right macronutrients. Now, I'm a sucker for a chocolate biscuit or a cookie or a brownie. They are my weaknesses. And, you know, I think I can honestly say that I didn't realize, you know, sneaking them here and there, not sneaking, I don't like that word, but having maybe a few more than I still should, even in off season, like, things still need to be managed. I get an off plan a week, and I get a super high day. Now, my fats are actually very little. So when John gave me the control of, you're tracking now, you know, you can have that flexibility of fitting things in that you want. For example, I love chocolate digestive. Perfect. Did I get a shock when on my training days I get only 30 grams of fats and a chocolate digestive has 4 in. So if I have a couple of them, you're nearing a third gone already, when actually I could be using that on something that I'd really want in my main meals. So obviously that's just a little taster of the process that I'm going through at the moment, and how I'm really learning about that side of things and the foods that we do still need to keep in control of. It's hard, I think, understanding that. And I think so many people were like, yeah, you've got loads of food, you've got loads of carbs. Yes, but everything still needs to be managed in line with that. You know, I'm not just eating a burger and chips for breakfast, lunch and dinner. I'm not just having a pizza every, day for, off plan. I enjoy my off planner week. I still look forward to it. Yes, the odd event. Yes, it's embraced. Yes, I love it. I love a boogie and I love a drink with my girls. So those things can happen. But again, like, it's not, I think a lot of people use bulking or growing off season as an excuse to just really like gain unnecessary weight, which we don't really want to do, because when you come around to cutting, whether you're lifestyle or bodybuilding, you've only got to get it off again. And I think this is something to remember, is we don't want to gain unnecessary weight because we've only got to carry it. We've only got to, it's only going to be a little bit tougher on our body. And we have to shift it off come the next prep. And obviously leaning into lifestyle, the variables aren't as extreme, right? So we don't need to push for such a high focus rate of gain over a long period of time. And you don't want to, when you cut, it doesn't need to necessarily be as dramatic as a stage prep, and that balance is embraced a little bit more. So you obviously have to align it to the goal that you're pushing for. And obviously, but we can enjoy things, which I have really enjoyed. And I guess my last kind of point that I want to highlight is giving growth the time of day. I feel that it's difficult for me to say, because obviously I have only done one prep. I have done 3 photo shoots prior to that, but I never gave growing the time of day between my shoots. I only ever have given it the time of day now, and now I'm seeing the most productive weight gain possible. And that's freaking cool. I love it. And, I never thought that I would feel as confident as I do being in this off season. Like, I have, I feel like I've completely detached from the scales. We embrace the journey that we're on. We manage the variables that we know we need to control. And feeling confident in yourself. And this obviously comes with so many different things alongside it. So, everything externally in my life, I'm in a little bubble of awesomeness, family, friends, socials, good things coming up, events, my job, my team. I love it. And it's making me like high on life, and also for high on life are the goals that I have. And it's really, really exciting. And it already excites me thinking about prep next year, thinking about the position I will be in. But obviously, just a food for thought for you is actually see what you can do by putting your mind to a growth phase, an off season, a pushing phase. Because how that is done can really make a difference to how, we want to show everything off when it comes round to cutting again, or, trimming down, or having a little shred for the summer holiday that you've got booked. Is give it the time of day. We don't need to be lean all year round. And I see a lot of posts saying, prep bodies are built in the off season. And I think a lot of people bypass the off season hugely because routine's the same, sessions are the same, training's the same, nutrition's the same. Like, I think people in like prep, and when people cut, they find it exciting. People are shredding. How are you doing that? What's the magic like pill that happens? And obviously how you look in your prep is in the making from your off season or your bulking season, whatever you want to call it. People have so many different names. So just remember embrace feeling stronger, embrace having more energy. And I just don't forget about that, because so many people stress about dieting all year round and being in a deficit and not getting the results they want. Sometimes why not spend that time in off season and growing and being in a slight surplus of food? Embrace being on more food. And it does get hard. Like, yeah, we're not always hungry. You've got to push past that a little bit. Don't forget that. But again, you got to embrace it. Embrace the suck in off season or embrace the suck in prep. Choose your hard. You know, we want to build our calories up to be in a really, really good place, so then they don't drop as dramatically in prep, and then you don't have to do, you know, maybe as much cardio. You know, your metabolism, your strength, everything that you're building up is going to be a byproduct into your prep or your cut. And every prep or cut is different. But you know, give it the time of day in off season, in your growing phase, because building muscle is freaking cool, and embrace that it takes a long time, because that long-term gratification is going to be even sweeter when you get to it at the end of your next cut or prep, shall I say. So I've obviously said quite a bit into all the avenues that I've gone into today. And obviously, if you have any questions about my journey or where I've got to in my off season, or any more from the little bits that I've said today, please do let me know, because I truly am loving every second of the phase that I'm in now, and I never thought I would love it this much. So yeah, I guess I'm just aiming to preach that to the world. And you know, I thought this year was the first year I've gone on holiday and I've not cut for, and I've not been bothered about that. I've got 2 weddings this year and I'll be peak into off season. I've got another holiday, all of those things. And I think it's made me feel so much more in control, because I've not stressed about dieting for that, or, you know, worried about that. I'm just like embracing this whole 18 months. Obviously, I'm like, I think 7 months into it so far. So I've got another 10 months to go ish. And yeah, so we're just carrying on that process and seeing where each week leads us to, and enjoying the strength of training and the energy and everything else that comes along with it. So yeah, I don't know what your thoughts are on the other side of the camera, but this might be a reason to just think about how, after this summer maybe, how you give growing the time of day it needs. So hopefully I will see you on the next episode, and stay tuned for more topics like this. A big thank you for joining me on my channel and tuning in. Find me on Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts, Amazon and YouTube at Diary to Empower. Follow me on Instagram, m_power.fitness, and TikTok, m.ibert. See you on the next episode.